All right, Tanya, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone. Welcome to the college prep workshop series that we're putting on for students. We're from the admissions office at Pacific University. Again, we really appreciate your time. We really hope that there's some useful information in each of these workshop sessions that, if anything, are giving you a little more confidence going into this college search and the application processes, because we know it can be a process that you're simultaneously doing with so many other things that you have going on. And scholarships are one of those things that is going to take a bit of your time. And Tanya tonight is our wonderful presenter. And Tanya is going to go over quite a few different things related to scholarships. But just a reminder that next week we're going to have how to pay for college, which will complement a lot of the information you get tonight. And then we'll also have those recordings for you. So if you've missed any sessions, just a reminder, those are recorded. So Tanya, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Maddie. So yes, I'm navigating here with my left hand, so bear with me. As you can see, I have a little special guest with me tonight. This is Thalia, and I'm Tanya, one of the admissions counselors here at Pacific. And tonight, I get to talk to you guys about one of my favorite topics, which is scholarships. So I love my job because, one, I get to be the person that gets to open the door into college for many students, right? Give them that first access. However, I know firsthand that having that financial barrier or financial stressors can be a big barrier for many students, right? So I want to make sure that I give you guys all the tools that I've learned in my journey when I was applying to scholarships, as well as some, helpful tips that I've gained as someone that has now had the privilege of sitting behind these scholarship interviews and these committees where we actually get to pick some of the winners. So my goals for tonight is to give you guys some insight, and not only on where to find scholarships, I know that's important, but I also want to give you guys tips on how to prioritize them, how to stay organized, and finally, how to win scholarships, right? That's the goal at the end, right? To win some money for your education. So my biggest tip for you guys, I would be doing a big disservice if I get into all the tips of doing this without getting into, what I believe is the game changer, which is figuring out what is your why. What I mean by this is, why are you pursuing higher education? Why do you need the money, right? Why you, right? And it doesn't have to be that deep, but I would encourage you to really spend some time in grounding yourself into thinking of what is your why. So your why should really light a fire in you, not only to begin the scholarship hunt and the journey of it all, but it'll help motivate you to continue when you first get that no. Because let me break it to you, you will most likely not get yeses to all the scholarships that you apply to. You may be one of the lucky few, so I don't want to rain on all the positivity, but majority of the time students will get no's. I know that I got plenty of no's, and they were heartbreaking, right? So having a really strong why will help you continue pushing forward, moving in the whole process, and give you that tunnel vision. So my why, when I sat down my senior year and during the fall, so right around this time as I started my journey, it really consisted of asking myself of who motivated me to pursue college and who do I want to impact in the future? What kind of difference do I want to make in this world? So you can see here my parents, I have them in a picture, and they both inspired me to further my education because they would have dreamed and given anything to be in my shoes, to be at 17 and have all the opportunities that I had ahead of me. So they were both born and raised in a small town along the coast of Michoacan, where their opportunities were very limited. So both of them only got their education up to 6th grade. So really, when they were 13 years old, their life and my life looked completely different, right? So I understood the privilege that I had and the opportunities that I was granted because of all the sacrifices that they were willing to make. So this was one of the big inspirations that I had. And this really lit up a fire in me, and that I wanted to go into education. And I wanted to continue speaking into students' lives, and especially the underrepresented students, and creating changes. And I wanted to go back to that community where my parents initially came from in Mexico many years ago, and this community that welcomed them and they welcomed my family. And I wanted to give back to this community. So this was my why. And I'm very proud to share that I was able to get scholarships, and I was able to graduate with my undergrad completely debt-free. And not only was I able to do that, but so were my 3 other siblings. So we're just, stories of people that we did it and that you can do it. And let me tell you something. I was not a 4.0 student. So if you are watching this recording, or if you're attending here tonight and you are maybe looking at your GPA or saying, I don't have the grades to, win these big scholarships, know that your willpower and your desire to make a change, and to, again, your why, that is fueling you, that's going to be bigger than any GPA written on your transcript. So there was this quote that my parents would always tell us, me and my siblings, as we were going on this journey of trying to find funds of how we were going to make college happen. And they would say, el no ya lo tienes, así que vamos por el sí. Basically what that means, literally, it means that you already have the no, so let's shoot for the yes, right? And I couldn't quite find a literal translation in a saying in English, but it basically means, right, like the saying of you miss all the shots that you don't take, right, or all the opportunities that you don't take. So my encouragement to you is to apply to as many scholarships that are out there, and really narrow in on your why, right? Because when you look at these scholarships and you're like, maybe I shouldn't go for it, but then you think back to your why and you're like, why shouldn't I, right? What do I have to lose? Now, another good tip that I like to share with students is, if there is a picture that grounds you, that reminds you of this why, try and find a picture, right? So for me, again, it was my parents. So I had a picture of my parents when they were young, the earliest picture that I could find of them. And I had this in my desk where I was doing majority of my scholarship work. So whenever I felt like giving up, I looked toward that picture and I said, I'm doing this for them. I'm doing this for myself, and I'm doing for the generations that are to come, right? For my kids, and all the difference that it'll make with me furthering my education. So I want you to find what your why is, and then find a picture that will remind you of what that is. For some students, this is a picture of themselves when they were little. So they may say, I'm doing this for myself, for the 7-year-old version of myself. For other students, it's a picture of the profession that they want to go into. So maybe they have a picture of a doctor, or they have a picture of an engineer or a teacher, whatever, that motivates you for that future of what's ahead. So when you want to give up, you're like, this is what this is why I'm doing this, because this is what's waiting for me. I have this career, this job that's waiting for me. So I need to get there. So find a picture that grounds you, and have that close in your desk. Some students like to have it as their screensaver. So try and do that. I would highly, highly recommend this. Now, where do you find scholarships? This is where it can get really overwhelming. It's awesome that there's so many out there, right? But let's cover the 3 kind of main areas of the scholarships. So you'll find some big national scholarships. So these are the ones where all the students across the US are eligible to apply for. So think of like the big ones like the Coca-Cola scholarships, and there's so many more of this sort, right? You'll typically find these online on like different web search engines or scholarship websites. And there's so many that we could be here all night going through these websites. And this workshop could have been just us going through these websites, but I think there's a lot more value in using all these other tools, because I know that you guys have heard of these websites. I know that you guys can do a quick Google search and come up, with a list, right? Hundreds of pages of these websites. What's really neat about them is that they'll have the option for you to do like a survey, and you get to enter in information about yourself, and then it'll filter out a list of scholarships. So then, it gives you a couple hundred scholarships of like, these are the ones that you're eligible for. So it's really nice in that way, right? Then we have the local scholarships. So these ones can be as local as eligible just for your high school, or local also within your state. You'll find these opportunities within online too, but my biggest encouragement is to visit your counselor. So if you haven't already met with your counselor, I would encourage you to set up an appointment with your high school counselor and say, hey, I really want to talk about scholarships. Let them know, set up that appointment, and then you can ask them, hey, are there any scholarships that are just offered to my high school? Because I know that in my high school, there were scholarships that were offered just for my high school, and there's so many, right? This was not a unique case for my high school. There's so many that are like that. And then you can also ask them, what are some other ones that you know of that students have received, that they received last year or that they've received in the past that you would encourage me to apply, right? So make that appointment, knowing them, letting them know ahead of time what you want to discuss, and then see what they offer. I know that, like I said, online, there are some websites that will narrow down within the state. I know that in Oregon, we have the OSAC. I don't know for other states, but again, your counselor is going to be the best resource to know these specifics of what's offered state by state. And then another way to find local scholarships is through employers. Many students already have part-time jobs. So I know that many employers will offer scholarships for students, such as like McDonald's and Starbucks and Target. I know those definitely offer some scholarships. So ask your manager. If they say, I don't know, look on the website, right? Check out the website, look for the employee benefits, and see what you can find. Also, sometimes your parents may be employed by companies that offer scholarships or some sort of help for students. So it doesn't hurt to ask. It doesn't hurt to make that extra research, right? And then the third one is your prospective universities. So what are the universities that you're applying to? And then check out their website, check out what scholarships they're offering. And I can speak for Pacific. At the time that you apply, you automatically get considered for a merit scholarship. So our merit scholarship is need blind. That means that we're not looking at your FAFSA to determine if, we're not looking at your FAFSA to determine how much merit you'll receive. And then it's also not competitive. So there's not a number of, how many students can get the top merit, right? So you're not competing against anyone. You don't have to do anything extra other than just submit your application. So at the time that you get admitted, you'll get notified by your admissions counselor what your merit award is. We give up between $20,000 and $30,000 in merit, and it renews every single year while you're here. So for 4 years, you get that merit scholarship, as long as you maintain a 2.0 GPA. So, not very hard to keep your merit scholarship. And then we also have some very easy ones, like our visit scholarship, right? Some of you have already attended our senior preview scholarship day. I know many of you are already registered. It's a great job being ahead of the game. And our senior preview scholarship days go, they started last week on Friday. and they go all the way through December. They're typically on Fridays, but we also have some Saturday sessions, and we also have virtual options. So it's a whole morning essentially where you get to hear more about Pacific. You'll get to get a whole tour of campus. You'll get to see a real dorm of what it will look like to live here on campus. And then you get to hear from a panel of professors and students. So in general, a really good day to come to, but the best thing of all, right, the scholarship day, is that you get to walk out with a $4,000 scholarship. So it's $1,000 every single year just for attending a really awesome event. So we have those visit scholarships, and then we also have additional scholarships. They range from, more academic, talent, special interest, and community-based scholarships, and they're all listed on our website. So if you have any questions, check them out on there. Reach out to your counselor. If you're planning to apply to one, if you're not sure if you would qualify for it, reach out to us, right? Ask those questions and apply to them. And similar to this, I would encourage you to check out the other websites of all the other universities that you're planning to apply to and see what kind of opportunities they're offering for some additional money. So now that you kind of know of where you can start looking to gather a list of what scholarships you could apply for, how do you prioritize them? Because again, it could be very much overwhelming, right? So my personal advice for you would be to start local. So start with those local scholarships. Why do I encourage students to start with these ones? Is because the pool of applicants is significantly less than the national ones, right? So your chances of earning these scholarships go up, right? But I do think that you should apply to all three. So you should be applying to local scholarships, to the universities that you're applying to, and to the national scholarships as well. So do all categories for these different kinds of scholarships, right? Excuse me, gotta skip those ads on the YouTube videos. But right, so apply to all three of them, right? And then once you have those lists, right, knowing that your financial aid is it's like building blocks. So all these scholarships will end up stacking onto your financial aid award package. So the more the merrier, right? So this is why I encourage you to apply to all three of them. Because even though the national scholarships do have those bigger pool of applicants, doesn't mean that it's impossible to get them, right? So don't shut the door on yourself, right? Apply to them, go after these different opportunities and see what comes out of that, right? Now, with the national scholarships specifically, because I know that like these websites where you get to fill out that survey and it makes it really easy for you to find so many scholarships, it does a great job, right, in filtering them out by interest. It doesn't do such a great job in detecting scams. So these are my red flags for you guys to be wary of when you are on these scholarship websites. That it should immediately lift a red flag in your head when you see any of these verbiage or words. So the first one is guarantees. This is a very salesy and scammy word. So sometimes it may come disguised, right? So guarantees is like if they promise that you're going to win a scholarship, or if you start a membership with this certain website, and it may be as low as $5.99. It can be a very small number where you're like, oh, it's just almost $6. It's fine. But they're guaranteeing that you'll earn thousands of dollars. No one can guarantee you anything, right? So that's an immediate red flag. Then some scholarships will contact you saying, congratulations, you won. That's another red flag of this is a scam, especially if you've never inquired about this, you never applied to it, and you're all of a sudden, you won it? No, red flag. So guarantees, anything of that sort, immediate red flag. And then along with the fees, right? They shouldn't be charging you to apply, right? You're applying for money, right? It's like, I don't got money myself. What do you mean you're charging me to apply? Excuse me, right? So if you see any fees that they're trying to get out of you, immediate red flag. And I find this one the most sickening, right? Because I feel like, these students are already vulnerable, right? You're looking for more help to pay for college, right? And it's like easy targets in their eyes, right? So if you see any kind of fees, don't fall for it. And if you ever question it, you can always send it to us. You can send it to me. I'd be more than happy to look at a scholarship webpage and kind of glance over it and let you know what I think. And then for personal information, you will have to, fill out an application, right? You will have to give some sort of information about yourself. However, this tactic is kind of hidden deep into the application. So if they ever ask for any bank information, this is a red flag. Because typically the way that scholarships do it is that when you get awarded the amount, they will hold on to that amount until you actually deposit to a university saying, I will be attending this university. You will show proof that you are enrolled, and then they will get to send that money to the billing office, financial aid office, and give that award that way. Some scholarships, like I know when you have too much scholarships, you'll get a refund check from the university. So that's a way that you'll get money back, but the university is issuing that refund check, right? So if anywhere in the application it's asking for any bank information, immediate red flag. And then the last one is check the eligibility box. So in any scholarship that you're looking at, they'll have some sort of like, here's how you become eligible to apply to this scholarship, right? So they don't have any requirements, not an essay, not even a 200-word short answer, like literally nothing in the eligibility section. Red flag. Red flag for me. I know that some students might say, but it's $25,000. Wouldn't say this is an easy thing. My immediate thing is, what are they basing it off of? How are they picking the winner, right? You are simply entering a raffle at that point, right? So be really careful in these really easy scholarships. And I've never heard of anybody winning them. I've never won them myself. I've also never applied to them, but these ones that you don't need to write anything, right? It's a little sketch, very sketch, if you ask me. So check that box for eligibility and the golden rule, right? Is it too good to be true? Because if it's too good, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is a scam, right? So these are kind of my top red flags to keep in mind. Now, staying organized is so crucial in this whole process. I know that you already have, so many other things outside of the classroom, right? You already have homework. And then outside of the classroom, you have activities and extracurriculars that you're involved in. And now you're taking on this scholarship hunt. So I really took the scholarship process as if it was my part-time job. So I would block out time in my schedule and say, oh, mom and dad, I'm clocking in. I'm not doing chores. I'm not, helping out right now because I'm clocking into my scholarship hunt job, right? So I really treated this as my part-time job because I knew it was going to pay well if I put in the time and effort into this, right? So one of the things that I created was this scholarship application organizer. And it helped me keep track of all the scholarships that I was interested in when I was initially looking at, these different types of websites and sources and everything that I was planning to apply to. And then I would check the box if I actually applied to it, then I get it awarded. I would save the link just in case I ever, wanted to go back, save the link just for easy tracking. And then in the requirements section, I like to include how many essays were they needing of me? So then I wouldn't just write the deadline and then leave it to start working on that scholarship, the week of the deadline. I kind of through the requirements saw how much work it needed. So I would write how many essays they were needing of me. I would even like a quick note of maybe what the prompt was to see what kind of overlaps with other scholarships. And I guess I'm talking too much. Sorry, Mama, is there? ¿Cuál quieres? ¿Quieres este? But yeah, to kind of see what essays overlapped. So then I could utilize the same essay and I wasn't writing a million essays, right? So I would write what prompts they were needing of me. I would ask if they were needing any letters of recommendation. So some scholarships will not need any, some scholarships will need one, some scholarships will need 4, right? So I really needed to keep track of everything else that I needed, and especially with letters of rec, because this is something that's out of my control. I am now putting my faith in someone else to get this turned in, to get this written up, typed up, and back to me. So my encouragement to you with letters of recommendation is to ask your teacher or counselor far in advance, right? Give them a good time in advance when you request it. I would include a resume of myself. So they knew me from the classroom, or they may know me from, my interactions with them through our meetings in the counseling office, right? But I wanted for them to get to know me, everything else that I was doing, right? Last week, we really talked about the importance of highlighting these extracurriculars. So I wanted my teachers and my counselor to know everything else that I was involved in as they wrote this letter, about me, so they could write the best letter for me, right? So I would give them, I would ask them, I would give them my resume, and I would give them a deadline. I know it's kind of weird, right? It's usually the other way around, but in this case scenario, it could cost you thousands of dollars if you don't have that piece in. So I would give them a deadline, and I would say, I really appreciate this. I would highly appreciate if I could have it by this time, right? And back when I know it wasn't that long ago, but back when I was applying to scholarships, some of them wanted them like in a sealed envelope, and I needed to mail them out. So that was a whole other thing of like knowing, right, keeping track of that time. A lot of times nowadays it's logging into a portal and submitting that letter, mailing that, or emailing that. So I would just make a quick note to follow up with that teacher or counselor and say, hey, I'm just checking in if you've already sent that, and then give them a thank you note, because that's just a nice thing to do. But they'll also be more likely to say yes next time you ask them, for, let's say, down the road in your college career, applying to scholarships again, they're more likely to agree to, write another letter for you. So that's just my tips on the requirement section. And then on the deadline, I would include, the month, the day, that, general stuff, but then also the time zone that I needed to turn it in by, especially for those national scholarships. Because you don't want to think that, oh, I have to turn it in by 11 p.m. And then you log into the portal with all your pieces ready to go. And it's like, oh, the deadline already passed 2 hours ago, right? So I would keep notes of what time zone they were expecting it by, or not wait till the last minute, but just keeping everything in track, right? And then also the amount, and if I received it, how much I received. Some amounts varied, so I wanted to keep track of all of that. I do have this exact organizer available for students. So if you're interested in this and save you some time, you can email me and I would be more than happy to share that with you. Now that we're on the topic about the amounts of scholarships. So last year I had a student that attended one of my scholarship workshops and she did amazing. And so she shared with me some of the scholarships that she received. So I put together this little graph of she earned 12 different scholarships and they amounted to the $15,300, which is a huge amount, right? This is impactful in that first year. Now, what I want to highlight from this is that every small scholarship really makes a difference because they all add up, right? So you can see here that she has scholarships ranging from $500 all the way up to $2,500, right? What you don't see in this graph is all the scholarships that she didn't get, right? And I don't want to focus on all the no's that she received, but I want to highlight to you guys is that, yes, you can see this big number and say, oh, well, this student did it, but I can't, or they got all the yeses, right? No, this student got plenty of no's, right? But what matters at the end of the day is all the ones that added up, right? And this was life-changing for her and her starting her college career, right? So really apply to the small ones and the big ones and all kinds of scholarships that you're interested in, because they really do add up and make a difference. Because at the end of the day, that's money that you're saving, right? Now, let's get to how to win scholarships, right? And of course, this isn't, a list of like, I guarantee that you will win them, right? I can't guarantee anything. But these are some really useful tips of things that will really make you stand out as a candidate, things that I used myself and that I continue to use even in the job, search. So really good, tips in general. But the first one is to do your research. So what I mean by this is that, for example, let's use the job example, right? When you're applying to a job, you want to know what kind of company you're going into, right? If you're applying to a restaurant and you've never eaten there before, how much can you really say in your interview about that restaurant, right? So before you even apply, I would encourage you to go and sit down and have a meal at that restaurant and get to see what the customer service is like, what the food is like, what's their best seller, right? What's their most, what is the ambiance in that restaurant? I did the same thing when I was applying to Pacific. And I was like, okay, what are their mission? What are their values at Pacific? Do I see myself working there? And I really enjoyed what I saw, what I read, what they were known for. And then I applied, right? And even I shared with Maddie, I was like, I looked you up. I was like, I looked up the boss. I looked up, the whole admissions team because I wanted to know who was going to be a part of my team. So same thing with scholarships, right? Look into these scholarships and especially those more competitive ones. Look into their website, check out their mission and value statement. And this will tell you so much, not only about, the foundation and the scholarship, but this will let you know what they're looking for in a winner, right? So read their mission and value statement because you will get so much insight from that. And in ways you can find, okay, how do I resonate with this? And how can I highlight these values in my application, in my essay, in my interviews, right? So being really strategic about the way that you play this information. You want to also connect the dots while you're in your essay or again, in your interview for certain scholarship competitions. What I mean by connect the dots is I want you to be very literal and very intentional when you bring up experiences, right? So last week, right, we brought up all these lists and I encourage you to write all your list of extracurriculars. In the first workshop, we brainstormed a little bit about yourself, your interest, your background, right? So you have all these different experiences that that make you who you are, right? When it comes to scholarships, knowing the different foundations, values, and then looking at everything that you have, find what connects and what is relevant to bring up, right? So for example, if I am applying to a scholarship foundation that values the fact that they want to give back to the community. And this is pretty much just a helpful tip, but this is the given that majority of the people that are funding scholarships, they really care about giving back to the community, right? So if they don't have a mission and value statement, if all that fails, you at least know that they care about giving back, right? So one, I know that, right? I know that they have that value. So I want to make sure that in my essay, I include how I will give back, right? How I will maximize that investment because they are picking me, they are investing in my education. So how will I make the world a better place? How will I maximize what they are putting in me? Right. So I want you to start thinking about that when you are writing your essay. And then I want you to bring in your experiences, right? Because that's what's going to make your essay also stand out, right? Because no other essay will be the same if you are being genuine and if you are bringing in your true experiences. So if if this essay is about my career, for example, right, what would be your dream future career, right? So I will say I want to work in education, right? So that'll be I'm answering the prompt, I'm saying this is what I want to work in. And then I'm going to share an experience, and this is how I've been actively trying to, discover. This is how I found out that I'm passionate about this. So, for example, in high school, my mom was a Catechist, so she was like a church, a teacher at church, right? So they teach the students about the First Communion, essentially, in the Catholic religion, right? So I would go and I would help her. And this was one of my volunteering experiences. Now, in this sense of where they're asking me about your future career, I'm saying I want to be in education. It's okay. Ahorita va a llegar. So in the sense that I'm talking about, education, I'm not necessarily going to highlight the church aspect, but I will highlight the aspect that I was working with students, that I was working with children, and that I really enjoyed the teaching aspect of that experience, right? So again, use your experiences wisely and connect the dots, right? Make it quite literal. This is what I mean. This is what I've been doing. This is the career that I want to go into, and this is how I will give back, right? So start brainstorming from your experiences, from what you've been through, for what you want to do, and try to tie that to that specific scholarship. And then number 3, my tip to you guys is to start feeling comfortable in self-advocacy. So, Mommy, it's Papa. So I want you to feel very comfortable in talking good about yourself. I know that if, for the first time, right, talking about all the great things that you have to bring to the table can be a little awkward, right? One of my colleagues, he likes to remind students before he interviews them for scholarships, and he's like, you guys can take your humble and put it aside, because now it's a great time to share all the great qualities that you have. So when you are, writing an essay or in an interview, it's okay to say all the great things that you bring to the table and say it confidently, right? We're not going to think that that you're cocky, that you think too highly of yourself. No, like this exudes confidence, right? And if you're nervous, I would encourage you to practice some of your answers with a friend, with a teacher, right? Practice these answers so that when it comes to that interview, whether it's in person, right, it comes out very fluently, right? Very natural to you. And when it's on when it's on a paper, this is my favorite kind of form, because then you can edit it. You can edit a million times. You can have a million people look over it and make sure that it reads well. And then lastly, let your why lead you, right? So that picture that you'll have on your phone, on your desk, somewhere close by, this will remind you of your why. And take this passion when you are writing your essays, when you're in that interview room, right? Take this this energy in that, right? I don't know if you've ever been around anybody that's talking about something that they love, like when someone talks about their puppy, and their face lights up and they get all glowy, right? You can just tell when someone is talking about something that they really love and that they feel passionate about. So the same thing happens in these interview rooms, right? And when I see students that they let their why shine through their answers, I can see the glow in their faces. I can see their shoulders drop a little and feel more relaxed, and just their answers just flow, right? They're being themselves. And that's what really will make you stand out. And crazy enough, but it'll even show on paper, right? When I read an essay that a student is really passionate about, that my face will glow up. I will feel happy, right? Because this energy is so powerful that literally even through paper, I can feel it, right? So even if there is no in-person interview, put that energy, put your why, put all that, passion in your essay, because it will shine through and it will most definitely make you stand out, right? So I really hope that these tips were helpful, but I do want to open it up to any questions that you guys have. I know that I didn't cover everything, so please drop your questions in the chat. I'd love to see what you guys have and I can answer them.
Earlier, and I wanted to answer it to the main group. So a student was wondering, should you wait to be admitted or accepted to these colleges before you apply for their scholarships, their additional scholarships, and even community-based scholarships?
This is a great question. So for universities, I would encourage you, like I said last week with the applications, to do the early bird deadline. So apply as early as possible, right? You guys are already ahead of the game because you guys are here either in person with us tonight or watching this recording, but apply as early as possible, right? So then you can start applying to these additional scholarships. At Pacific, our additional scholarships don't open up until March 1st. So that's still quite a, Maddie, they open up or they're due March 1st?
They're due March 1st.
Due March. Thank you for that clarification. I'm glad I asked. Yeah, so they're due March 1st. And then do you know when they open up?
What was your question, Tanya? Sorry.
Do we have an open date? Are they open right now?
Great question. There are some that our financial aid office does need to edit. So you'll notice that online Pacific does have within our financial aid department's web pages, you'll see that there's a full list of our scholarships. Typically, those applications are being reviewed. The application processes are being reviewed by our faculty, like right now. Because they're back in session, things are happening, they're finding out about how much money that they can allocate to scholarships for students. So you'll see those updated within the next few weeks.
Yeah. So as you start, my tip is to start looking, like searching everything up early, and then, apply early to colleges, right? And then you're aware of all these other scholarship deadlines. So for example, like for our additional scholarships, right, we may still be fine tuning some may still be available, right? But now you're aware of what's available on our website because you will have access to that. Even if the application isn't open yet, you'll know what's out there. And then you can just ask us, right? You can send an email to your admissions counselor. But yeah, so I would encourage you to apply first and then apply to the additional scholarships.
Great. All right, another question came in the chat. It's a great question. What is a safe online scholarship site? The student believes that they got onto one, but now are thinking it might have been sketchy. So, and this was actually a question that came in through our form. Students were wondering, Tanya, what would be your top safe scholarship webpage that you'd recommend?
So there's a lot of good ones that I've navigated through. And again, these are really good ones that will filter out, but there'll still be, sometimes they'll come up, the scam scholarships, they'll come up as ads, but it'll literally look like the web page, even though it's not a part of it. So some of the ones that I've navigated that have really good tools to go through is, I believe it's scholarships.com, just as it sounds. And what I like about this one is that there is a section where you can also narrow them down by financial need. So let's say that your family doesn't quite meet the threshold of financial need, you can actually check that box and find scholarships specifically for you. That one's a really good one. And then Scholly, I believe it's also .com. I've been on that one, and that one's pretty good. And those are the two that come to mind. But I think that there's a lot of them that are really good at, at narrowing and helping you narrow the search. But that's the whole reason why I put the red flags, right? Because there's so many out there, so many good websites out there. It's just, they don't quite have the technology to filter out these scams. They filter through, right? So just having this keen eye of like, okay, they can't guarantee anything. I shouldn't be paying anything. I shouldn't be putting bank information, right? Having these little, just flashing lights when you see some of these verbiage. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great advice, because I know that sometimes it can be a little overwhelming when you're clicking through and it looks really exciting. But your tips on red flags, I think, are going to be in the back of people's minds when they're searching for different scholarships, Tanya. So great advice. A student had submitted a question beforehand, and it was, what is the best advice to someone who is scared of failure during the whole college application process? And I wanted to ask this question now because I think that's also relevant when it comes to scholarships, especially when we had those scholarship interviews, and you're really putting yourself out there.
That's such a fair feeling. And, I'll give you a little insight. I still get scared. Before this presentation, I was very nervous, very, very nervous, right? So this feeling of scared or being nervous, it just means that you care, right? That's what my colleagues tell me all the time before a big presentation, where I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'll do. And they're like, it just means that you care, right? So that's a good thing, right? So own that feeling, right? You feel the little butterflies. You're like, I'm kind of feeling scared. I don't know what the outcome will be, but I'm going to still keep going, right? I'm still going to apply. I'm still going to push through. I'm still going to show up to those interviews, even if they're in person, right? I'm going to practice. I'm going to rehearse with someone that I trust, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to kill that interview, right? So knowing that this feeling of nervousness is natural. Everyone else is feeling it. But also, just be confident in what you bring to the table, because your voice is valuable, your assets are valuable, and I believe in every single one of you guys that you'll be able to earn scholarships and make college happen.
Great advice, Tanya. And I love that my advice you actually take. So that's really great to hear. So don't forget the people in your corner when you're unsure about yourself, if you need a little pep talk. I'm always here for students, and definitely here for you, Tanya. So another question came in. A student is planning to attend community college before finishing off a 4-year degree, and they're wondering, can I still apply for scholarship if I've graduated from high school? So this could be a student that's possibly a transfer student.
Yeah, definitely. So the scholarships process continues. Right now I'm in my grad program. I'm still applying for scholarships. So this thing doesn't end for some of us, right? So really you can apply. There's scholarships for first year students. So those students that are right off from high school straight into college. And then there's also scholarships that you'll continue to apply. Like there's scholarships that are renewable. I didn't really touch on this. I touched that the merit was renewable, but there's also external scholarships that are renewable. So that as long as you meet certain qualifications, you'll continue to receive it throughout the duration of your college year career. Then there's students for transfer students. So there's so many out there, literally. So wherever you are in the face of college, know that there's endless opportunities.
And there are some merit considerations still for those transfer students. You're not
Oh, yeah.
missing out on that, which is great. And then, yes, there's unique scholarships for each individual college for those transfer students too. So that's one benefit to look for in a college. Okay, one other question coming in. How do athletic scholarships differ from academic scholarships? And can you bring
Yes.
them to Pacific, Tanya?
So, you can get external athletic scholarships at Pacific. Since we are a Division III school, we don't offer any athletic scholarships. The big perk of that is that if our students that are athletes, they really do it because they love and they're passionate about that sport. So by your junior or senior year, classes get really overwhelming, you're not missing out on any money, right? So that's a big perk. But if you get any external athletic scholarships that you're able to take wherever, whatever university you end up choosing, we most definitely take any external scholarships. And then again, everything just stacks up.
Okay, it looks like our questions are slowing down, and you answered a lot of the questions that were submitted prior in your presentation, Tanya. So thank you for the wealth of content. But this is the conclusion of our evening. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Again, we know that this is your Wednesday evening, and we appreciate you spending time with us. If you're watching this recording, we hope that you'll continue to find this helpful as well and return to this as needed. But we look forward to seeing you next week again, same time, same Zoom link. We'll also have it recorded, and that next week is going to be how to pay for college. We've got an amazing guest coming in. We're going to have Griffin Shawless, one of our financial aid counselors. Some of you may have actually met him in some of the senior preview day events that we're having. But we're looking forward to having him in as an expert. So if you want to submit your questions prior, you can fill out that form once again. But of course, you can always show up live and ask those questions or email us another day. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Good luck with senior year. You all are ahead of the game. So thanks for showing up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay. Enjoy your nights. Excellent, Tanya. And you can stop the recording.